Right. Okay, I have 7 o'clock, so we're going to get this meeting started. Welcome, everybody, to our May meeting, and let's have roll call, please.
Gunn,
Here.
Noble,
Here.
Ellen,
Here.
Blackman, here, Wagers.
Here, please stand as president. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Congratulations.
I might maybe somebody wants to for them, yeah.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Get there. Oh, yeah, you can cripple with cold.
I know, it's dangerous.
Right.
There you go. Congratulations. We're so excited that you're continuing.
We're right here.
Right hand, please. I state your name,
I, Whitney Wagers,
hereby declare
hereby declare
under oath
under oath
that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
perform the duties of board member
perform the duties of board member
for Office 1 of the Sand Springs Public Schools
for Office 1 of the Sand Springs Public Schools
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
discharge all of the duties
discharge all of the duties
pertaining to said office
pertaining to said office
and obey the Constitution
and obey the Constitution
and the laws of the United States and Oklahoma.
of the laws of the United States and Oklahoma.
Very nice. Good job, Mike.
With that, I will move to elect Mike Mullins as president, Rusty Gunn as vice president, Bo Novel as deputy clerk, and Beth Schoaf as board clerk.
Second,
Don't we want to discuss that deputy clerk thing?
Has with a lot of duties.
All right,
Got big shoes to fill. I just was that position,
I
so
can't do that.
following the best.
A motion and a second. Vote.
I didn't hear the second.
Second.
Jack,
Okay. All right. Gunn.
Aye.
Mullen,
All right.
Noble,
all right,
Blackman. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Whitney. We appreciate the job that you have done of leading our organization for the past year. It's been a challenging year, but my gosh, you stepped up and we appreciate it. Again, congratulations on
good job.
serving with us another 5 years. The next item, item number 5, is something we really enjoy, the Sandite Spirit Award. And I don't know who has one for Bryson Jackson.
I have that.
Cool.
And it's a great joy to present this award. We're gonna go way up here to the front center, buddy. Well, Miss Andrea Campfield has recommended you and nominated you for this award as a Sandite Spirit Award. And she just, raved about, she's always had great stellar students. But in the technical side, you have just raised the bar tremendously for that as you came in as a sophomore and began to work in that area. And now even serving like a teacher's assistant to help her create lesson plans to help other students to learn the things that you've learned over the years. And you've just been a great asset to that program. Andrea, where's she at? Oh, there she is. I knew you were here somewhere. And I'll let you speak to that just a little bit, and then I'll have a few other comments as well. Just, you wrote a whole lot here. It'd be better for you to say it than for me to read it.
Sure. I'll just say that Bryson came to us as a sophomore and tracked me down and said, "Hey, I can help you with tech." And this is a short story I shared last night or Friday night at the closing of our show. I said, "Okay, well, hang around. We'll get you in there." Great. Well, he began to show up when I needed him most, and I kept putting him to work. And then Mr. Whipple said, hey, I know a student that is really good at tech and we need to really put him to work this year. And I said, really? So do I. He said, yeah, my students, his name is Joseph. I said, well, this guy's Bryson. So let's get them together and we'll have a really good tech team. Well, we can't come to find out it's Joseph Bryson Jackson. So he has made an amazing impression on the entire faculty and staff. He is the go-to guy for all of us. And of course, for drama and technical theater, he has just gone beyond all imagination as far as skill level. And he's doing 2 internships this year. And I know that he's got a bright future ahead, and we could not have done these 3 years without him, especially with all the new wonderful equipment we've gotten through bonds and grants. He's been a godsend. So I appreciate you.
Well, one of the internships that he's doing is at our church, and just like you said, he always shows up, and that's the thing, man. He's just so consistent and knowledgeable and not complacent. He's continuing to grow in the skills and in the knowledge that he has. And so, man, it's just a privilege to get to present this to you, buddy. This is just a certificate to award to you for outstanding achievements and accomplishments in representing Sand Springs Public Schools and the community at large. And then if you wanted to take your pastor out to Chick-fil-A, gift card for you. Proud of you, buddy. They're going to take some pictures here. Come on. Stand here.
One, two, three.
So Bryson, I would just add that you never meet a stranger, which is a great attribute because a lot of people are a little bit reserved about introducing themselves to new people. And we had the first football game I saw you at, you were right here telling me who you were, what you were doing, and you're amazing. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
Fabulous. All right.
Sebastian, who has
Sebastian couldn't be here tonight because they have a baseball game, so let's reserve that one for next time.
All right, well, I'm gonna ask Larry Landsteiner. Am I saying it right? Landsteiner. There you go.
Lance better.
Michael, can you join us too at the front, please? Because you've been a big part of what we do with this particular organization. And what Larry does is Larry works for CCR, or that's your company. CCR is a disaster restoration company, and his company is our best friend. We hate to call them, but when we call them, we really need them because they're our best friend, because they show up and they take care of things. So we appreciate what you've done for us for many times. We've had smoke, we've had water, we've had fire. If the locusts come, I'm leaving, okay? But we've had all those things, and your company has stepped up numerous times to take care of us. So Michael nominated you, and what we're giving you for is the Sandai Spirit Award, and this certificate is awarded to Larry Landsteiner for outstanding achievements and accomplishments in representing Sand Springs Public Schools and the community at large, and we like to say thank beyond. So Michael, you might want to share a little bit more about what his company has done for us.
Yeah, I'm the one that has to make that phone call at 1 o'clock in the morning or whenever it happens. Larry's company has done work all over the state, from houses to government building to schools. And honestly, we don't care about any of that. We just care what he's done for us.
So,
And I can tell you that he's saved gym floors for us. He has just this year, we had the fire in the 6th grade. And despite that building had to be cleaned from the rafters to the floor, 2 stories, we had him back in there in 2 weeks. The guy's amazing. And the reason that some of our structures are still standing in the shape that they're in because of his company.
So the most recent one was really the grand freeze that didn't seem to ever end, and it just kept coming. So I have to add that every time, well, as the week wore on, we were finding something else, and these guys, I don't know how many hours your team put in trying to mitigate 3 different sites. Actually, I think there was 4. It was nothing less than amazing. So thank you. That was
Very nice.
very stressful.
Thank you.
One, two, three.
Thank you for what you do, Cynthia. You betcha.
The next item on our agenda is item number 6, the Van Dyke Pacesetter Award.
All right, Mindy Lee. Mindy, Karen Biggs has nominated you for Sandite Pacesetter Award because you are an absolute blessing to not only her and Pratt School, but to Sand Springs Public Schools in general. And she wrote the nicest words that I'm going to read. Mindy Lee goes above expectations for the students at Pratt Elementary. She has been the counselor at Pratt for many years and pours her heart and soul into our students. Through the years of working in Sand Springs schools, I have heard many great things about Mrs. Lee. Now I am part of the Pratt staff and I get the pleasure to work with Mrs. Lee every day and actually see firsthand her love and dedication. Mrs. Lee will assist with absolutely anything needed. She has a positive attitude, passion about everything she does, and this is portrayed to our students and staff. Her enthusiasm is contagious. For me personally, she has been a lifesaver in helping me transition to Pratt. Her knowledge of family situations and students' needs is outstanding. She takes the time to be available for every child and their family. Mrs. Lee works beyond the normal school day to do whatever is necessary to connect with these families, plan lessons, both counseling and GT, schedule events, assist with PTO, etc. Recently, she prepared an entire day for our 5th grade students to experience Junior Achievements BizTown, which is super cool. This year, BizTown was virtual. Mrs. Lee not only utilized the digital material provided by JA Junior Achievement, she also planned many extra activities in order for students to have a more robust experience. She created a store for students to spend their paycheck, planned interviews with the middle school LAFS classes, created virtual Google expeditions for students to explore companies such as YouTube, and made a virtual career classroom where students could watch videos of professionals talking about their careers. We are blessed to have Mindy Lee at Pratt Elementary as well as in Sand Springs schools. Thank you. Congratulations. Ms. Biggs, I know, oh, there, okay. I hope that was it in a nutshell.
That was it.
Can you say anything?
Nutshell. And so I nominated her, probably in, I don't know, November or December. And since then, she just continues to do more and more. Now we've had the Pratt City, which is what she does. It's kind of like Junior Achievement, but now she does it for the 4th graders. So they get a little taste of it. And then the 5th grade does the BizTown. And then she just did a state testing party to get them all pumped and ready before the test so that they would have a great time. And she just goes above and beyond all the time.
So Miss Lee, when you
Nonstop.
started, you weren't Miss Lee.
No, it's Miss Baker.
Exactly.
There you
So
go.
she's been here for a while.
Yes.
And it's
This is
just
her lovely family
You
right
weren't even
there.
pregnant with Cole yet when I started.
so Cole's 21. So
No,
long-
when I started, we didn't even have email and we had inter-district memos. That's how long it's been.
the energy never ceases. That's what you need to know from what she's doing now, Shop with a Cop. I think anyway, it's just amazing to be working that long in the same district and the energy just keeps.
And the same site,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. She's always been at Pratt, so.
Good. So thank you for your.
Yes.
But it's because of it's a great school and
I agree.
great staff, like he's all here and a great leader. We're very blessed with her as our leader. So happy that we have her.
Well, thank you so much. You are the definition of a Sandite, so thank you.
I think she's gonna get a picture.
1,
Smile.
2. Right.
Okay. Thank you so much.
And we get to recognize Miss Andrea Bright, and I'm gonna have Mr. Smith come up with us here. She is being recognized as the recipient of the FCCLA a Master Advisor Award, and that is the Family Career Community Leader. And this organization supports Sand Springs, supports Oklahoma, and her recognition is statewide, not just locally. And she teaches the kids to get involved in the community, to be community leaders, to think about others and the needs of others and the needs of the community. And I'm just going to let Mr. Smith take it from there.
Yeah, and this is a well-deserved award. I mean, she does a lot for our students. She's always asking me, can I do this? Can I do this? And I'm excited when she do that because that's what makes the class exciting. That's what makes the students want to be involved. She even had me out, with food, the food bank. We went out and served at the food bank. Now my wife wanted me to do more at the food bank. But hey, I appreciate that. I appreciate people pushing me to be better, and she does that with all of our students as well. It's if you ever walked around and watched her interact with our students, you would be amazed at the relationships that she builds with our kids. And I'm very proud to have her on our staff. She makes the staff better, she makes the students better, and we're very proud of her.
One of the things I would add that we like to see with our folks is not just local recognition, but for folks to get involved at the statewide level. It's a higher degree of accomplishment, honestly, and the fact that you're a part of an organization that represents what you do is amazing, and it represents Sand Springs very well. So thank you. And also, you could probably put in a little bit of a plug for the Early Learning Center. That is shameless.
Yeah.
I'm teasing.
Love it. Thank you. So this certificate is awarded to you, Ms. Bryce, for outstanding achievements and accomplishments in representing Sand Springs Public Schools and the community.
Thank you.
At large. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to take executive privilege, to just recognize one more person who's very special to us, that we have a superstar superintendent. And when I turn on the news tonight, I see our superstar superintendent on the Channel 6 news at 6 o'clock. She was in Oklahoma City today with the superintendent of Oklahoma Public Schools. And please, Sherry, tell us a little bit about what you did and brag on yourself.
I don't like to brag on myself. My big mouth, as you all know, gets me in trouble about 100% of the time when we were on a Zoom meeting and contemplating how we were going to address learning loss, social emotional services for kids with a group of superintendents with Superintendent Huffmeister. And so they were talking about meeting the standards, what we were going to do in summer school. And I popped up and said, it's got to be fun. You guys were missing the mark unless we combine learning loss with enrichment. So I went on and on and on. And I get a call from her press secretary and she said, we will come and talk at the press conference in Oklahoma City. So I had to write a small little speech. It was 3 minutes. She narrowed it down to 2. I know you guys are not surprised about that, but truly it was a really good experience. There were 3 of us, Sean McDaniel from Oklahoma City Public Schools, myself, and Kyle Reynolds from Woodward, came and just spoke about our districts and what we're doing to address kind of recoupment from the pandemic, which, you know that we're all seeing this really bright light at the end of the tunnel, and it was fun. So anyway, it took, I don't know, a good chunk of my morning, but very well worth it. Again, I do think it's important, no matter what area you teach or draw, whatever it is, to represent statewide. So it was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Cool. Thank you for what you do. She's a leader in the state and what she does. We're proud of our superintendent. So. This being a special meeting because it's on the line, we don't really have an opportunity for the public to be heard, but we were approached by a patron tonight that asked if she could address the board for 5 minutes. So if it pleases the board, I would allow that the patron, I don't see her back there. Did she leave? There she is. If you could join us at the front, did she sign in? Yeah. And please just set the ground rules. Greg, if you could be the timekeeper, please, and we'll allow you 5 minutes to address the board.
Marty.
And the board will not make any comments about your comments. So we'll hear what you have to say, and please introduce yourself and tell us what
Okay,
you would like
I
to
sit
say.
here, is that all right?
Anywhere you want
Okay.
to, we're fine.
My name is Miranda Curley. I just a little bit background about myself. I was born and raised here. My parents, I started school here at 3rd grade, and it was a couple years ago, and graduated high school. My mom taught at Pratt until she got cancer, and she'd probably still be teaching today if she were here. And my father coached and taught here at Charles Page until he retired to take care of her. And Needless to say, I love and value this town and all the teachers and the staff, which is why my husband and I decided to raise our children here. I'm a concerned parent, speaking on behalf of my children as well as other parents and grandparents who have joined me here tonight to ask that the mask mandate be lifted from public schools and that the parents be given the option to decide what best suits the health and well-being of their own children regarding masks. I have documentation that was provided by American Frontline Doctors. American Frontline Doctors is a nonpartisan, not-for-profit organization. Everything that I am presenting can be found at their website at www.americasfrontlinedoctors.org. The founder, Simone Gold, MD, is a board-certified emergency physician. Dr. Gold worked in Washington, D.C. for the Surgeon General as well as for the chairman of the U.S. Senate Labor and Human Resources Committee. Most will remember her back in July of 2020 when she spoke. She organized the first ever America's Frontline Doctors White Coat Summit in Washington, D.C. Dr. Gold is a leading voice and scientific clarity in the fight against COVID. I'll read portions of the documentation, the ones that are highlighted. And I have the forms if you all would like me to pass them out after to review. If not, it can be found on the website. This notice is on behalf of our children. Our findings raise significant concerns, both medically and legally, of the current mask policy in place. Masks are effective for the purpose claimed by the mandate, potentially harmful, and only authorized for use by EUA, which stands for Emergency Use Authorization. Masks are ineffective, and in many ways they harm. It is a myth that masks prevent viruses from spreading. The overall evidence is clear. Standard cloth and surgical masks offer next to no protection against virus-sized particles or small aerosols. The size of a virus particle is too small to be stopped by a surgical mask, cloth, or bandana. A single virion of SARS-CoV-2 is about 60 to 140 nanometers or 0.1 microns. The pore size in a surgical mask is 200 to 1,000 times that size. Consider that the CDC website states surgical masks do not catch all harmful particles in smoke, and that the size of smoke particles in wildfire are 0.5 microns, which is 5 times the size of SARS-CoV-2 virus, COVID-19. Wearing a mask to prevent catching COVID or similarly sized influenza is like throwing sand at a chain link fence. It does not work. There has been one large randomized controlled trial that specifically examined whether or not masks protect their wearers from the coronavirus. The study found mask wearing did not reduce the incidence of COVID. There have been hundreds of mask studies related to influenza transmission done over several decades. It is well-established fact that masks do not stop viruses. Part of the evidence is that the cloth face masks actually increase influenza-linked illness. Bacteria are 50 times larger than virus particles. As such, virus particles can enter through the mask pores, yet bacteria remain trapped inside the mask, resulting in the mask wearer to continually be exposed to the bacteria. Related to the 1918-1919 influenza pandemic, there was almost a universal agreement among experts that deaths were virtually never caused by the influenza virus itself, but resulted directly from severe secondary pneumonia caused by well-known bacteria and pneumopathogens that colonized in the upper respiratory tract. Dr. Fauci and his National Institute of Health studied pandemics and epidemics and concluded the vast majority of influenza deaths resulted from secondary bacterial pneumonia. All parties mandating the use of face masks are not only willfully ignoring established science, but are engaging in what amounts to a whole school clinical experimental trial. This conclusion is reached by the fact that face mask use and COVID-19 incidents are being reported in scientific opinion pieces promoted by the CDC and others. The fact is, after reviewing all the studies worldwide, the CDC found no reduction in viral transmission with the use of face masks. Additionally, children have been repeatedly shown not to be drivers of this contagion. It is well accepted that children have statistically zero chance of dying from COVID. The CDC shows K through 12 mortality rate from or with COVID is 0.00003.
Sorry, your time is up. Thank you for sharing that information with us.
That has
We give you 5 minutes, so thank you for sharing that information with us. If you will leave a copy of your report with Ms. Turkey, we would appreciate that. So, thank you very much. Moving on to the next item on our agenda is discussion of instructional strategies and alignment with district continuous strategy improvement plan, the student empowerment and staff empowerment. And this is the time during the meeting that if people want to get up and leave, you're more than welcome to leave. I know some that want to go home and do homework in this front row, and I'm probably some other students that want to leave too, but now would be a good time. So thank you all for joining us tonight. But you're welcome to stay. You don't have to leave, but you're welcome to leave.
Diane, congratulations. You definitely deserve it.
Cindy, good job.
Thank you.
Well, you did great.
Congratulations. It's not very exciting.
Okay,
Elizabeth Durkee, lead us through the,
so there are things
empowerment.
I want to talk about. One is, Mr. Beard wanted me to remind you guys on item 30. Thank you so much. We'll be voting as a board to approve a list that was recommended by the committee for chronic absenteeism. It's a requirement by our state Department of Ed. And also state law.
that with Ms. Durkee, she can pass it out to us at the end of the
Yeah, if you
meeting.
don't mind it.
So thank you.
This is a requirement from the State Department of Ed by law. However, the State Department is also asking for an exemption for accountability through the ADRIF report card. So while it won't count against us in a report card data scenario this year, it is something that by law we have to have board approval on. So there's a list of students that through the committee have been approved because of health conditions who have been chronically absent, that we would be exempt from having them counted against us for accountability. And that's item number 30. Sanitary successes, we continue to send that out. I will tell you, we always have things to celebrate. We're at a chamber retreat Wednesday. And a comment was made about the fact that we send out that newsletter every month. And it's a great reminder for our community that beyond all of the things that go on that we haven't so much liked this year, there are plenty of things for us to celebrate. And then lastly, ACT data is in its preliminary, but I thought it would be great for you guys to see the preliminary data. I made a comment earlier about the fact that our composite score, which is what I kind of key into, is a 19, a little bit less than it was last year, but you also have to consider the number of juniors that took the test last year. If you'll remember, because we were right in the beginning of the pandemic and the school shutdown, we were the testing requirement was relaxed, so we didn't give the ACT in the spring last year. So we had several juniors that would have been seniors this year that opted in to take it. So there were only a few as compared to the large amount of seniors that took it this year. So overall, considering the disruption of learning over the course of the year, I feel like a 19 as a median score is very respectful or respected. Do you add anything to that, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, just to follow up with what she was talking about, if you look specifically at the data that was handed out to you guys prior to the meeting, like this year, we tested over 550 students, whereas last year, due to the pandemic and not testing here on site, only 164 Sandites tested in the ACT, but the prior year, 700 tested in 2019. So that's kind of what she was alluding to as far as if you look at the 2019 data and the 2021 data, they're very closely in alignment as far as giving a good measure of where our Sandites typically land on the ACT. If you look deeper into it on the subject breakdowns, you can see that specifically with science, we actually scored a little bit higher than we did in 2019. So we're pretty pleased with this, given the fact that through everything our students have been through this year, with the learning loss that's occurred from either being on quarantine or going through distance learning at different times, we're still seeing that they're performing well. So.
Very good. Any questions about the ACT data? Of course, we'll have a further expansion of that later, but this was a preliminary score report from the ACT website.
Seeing no questions, Ms. Durkee, please move on to item number 8, resource innovation.
I will say I love continuing to attach the Vernon Florence newsletter. I think it gives us really good insight in terms of the state of affairs for state revenue, which seemed to be trending in a positive direction. As you know, we depend on our state revenue sources for over 50% of our general fund budget for Sand Springs. I'm glad that it's heading in the right direction. There is chatter in the House specifically that they are intending to increase the dollars for the formula this year. The House is talking about approximately 160 million, which is a coup for us. We're hoping it gets us back up to the factor that we had prior to, right after the teacher walkout, honestly, yet to be determined. Of course, they're working through the budget now, but I think there's appetite in the Senate as well to put some more money in the formula. Mr. Morris, I don't know if you'd want to add anything.
Well, I know all of you followed what happened to us last year. The year before, we were at 18.9 million. I'm just talking about just our state foundation aid line item. We were at 18.9 million. I originally budgeted in at 17.5. So that was a reduction of 1.4 million. And we hit it up at 16.1 by the time they finished with us. And that's going to be reflected when you see our audit come through and everything this year. Because that was just a huge drop. It was almost $3 million. We lost just out of state aid. So as I've said before in other board meetings, but my hope, and I'm very conservative when it comes to, putting numbers down, you guys know that, is to get us at least back to the 17.5. If they get us back there, then I would be very happy because I can pretty much zero-based budget us at that point.
It's helpful to see appetite in the legislature is actually existing that want to increase education funding. Sometimes that's not the case. And so this year it seems to be, which is good. That too, with the infusion of federal stimulus dollars is going to help us do a lot of things in the next 3 years, honestly, that our district has a need for. So I was looking at, we're going to stay hopeful. 42 is an item that we'll be asking for approval. It's a budget revision simply in Fund 11, which is where the federal stimulus dollars are budgeted. We went ahead, we were going to pause and not do the revision or add that second stimulus amount in until July. However, actually the June meeting for the next year's budget. But we've just, we're going to ask you also to approve an HVAC package, which will be paid for out of the second stimulus package. And so it's important for us to go ahead and approve a revision of the budget that seems a little bit unusual at this time of year, but because we have new money infused, we'll need to do that. So
Can we discuss it now, or do you want me to wait?
Unless I have questions, absolutely, we'll take some questions.
Okay, do you have any questions? I know you saw the budget. I can answer any quick questions. If you have what I did with Fund 11, I'll make it quick.
Please.
Just,
I don't have a question, but you said you had some things to explain.
I'm sorry.
You had some things to explain. I don't have any questions.
No, he said he would explain it if we had a question.
Okay.
I will explain, Kevin. Okay.
The other thing I would add is, of course, that HVAC package is on this agenda, but we're also going to recommend the replacement of 10 yellow school buses for routes. I think Ms. Hayes might have escaped. She had a final tonight at 11 o'clock. So I think 2 of them actually. But we had a fleet of buses that were purchased about 15 to 17 years ago that it's time to be replaced. And so that's also what I would consider a coup for us.
It was a final at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, well, it's at 11. She has from now until 11.
Get some like
Oh, I think there was 2. That's what they do to online.
vampire class or something.
Online school's a little crazy because they make assignments at midnight. I can have the whole testament with Paul. It's crazy.
Great.
Yeah. Let's see. Also, there's a floor plan that Jeannie has developed with our plan to convert enrollment to the front of the Manual Arts building. I'm very, very excited about that. In fact, Jeannie's sitting right back here. She called before the board meeting and said, you got to go by because they did a sample wall in converting plaster to a smooth wall and it makes it look like sheetrock. It's fabulous. And we think we can do it fairly inexpensively. If you have a question, by all means, Ms. Kabach is here to answer any of those, but the idea is to be more user-friendly for our patrons that come to enroll. We really would have liked for it to be done before this year's enrollment season, but we're finishing up Angus. We've just got a lot on our plate. We decided versus doing it, having it finish in June, we would pause so we don't confuse people even more and shoot for maybe October for finish of that area. So really excited about that conversion. An update on the lawsuit that we entered into last month. As of the time I wrote my board notes, there were 131 school districts that had entered into the lawsuit alongside us. Now there's 187. And it spans 64 counties. So again, it's a big deal. Proud to see our colleagues that are jumping on board to help us protect the minimum funds that we get specifically in Sand Springs with our building fund. So I think that concludes the finance portion, unless you guys have a
Any
question.
questions for Ms. Durkee or Mr. Morris? Please move on to item number 10, discussion of health and safety related issues. And let me just start by saying I appreciate the team that put together the package, the startup plan and the revision that we made. I appreciate Ms. Wagers, Mr. Gunn, who sat on that committee. I know that was a challenging thing to do, to work through that thing, but I appreciate that they came up with a viable plan that we can use to move forward and to maintain a healthy and safe environment for the Sand Springs Public Schools. I appreciate the rest of you and Whitney. I know that was a challenge. I know that was a lot of hard work and a lot of cooperation. And Ms. Durkee and you and your team, thank you for doing that, putting that together.
It was a year-long process. We I had a committee meeting last Thursday. And by the way, we skipped item number 9, so I might go back. We'll shift it up. But I'm not going to let you forget item 9. So I have some stuff to say about that one.
Ready to go to health and safety and stuff. So,
That's all right.
okay.
We had not a long meeting. I have to tell you that the committee's been working all year long. It started in July, maybe even June last year. So it's been quite a little process. Going through, trying to maneuver through updated guidance that we received all year long. So this is maybe the 3rd or 4th revision. If you'll recall, back in August, you all gave me the authority to change those as we saw fit. You'll see an item, I believe it's the last item of this agenda, that will ask you to approve, disapprove, or amend that plan. This was in final format that you've seen, was the actual recommendation of the committee. Just to summarize, if you want me to go ahead and do that now, I don't mind doing that. Now's probably a good time. There were really, I identified 6 or 7 areas that were maybe not huge changes to the guidance, and you guys pipe in if I missed something, but something that you need to be aware of, and kind of in a nutshell will describe how it's different than what we have had this whole year. The first one was taking temps in the building. We've struck that language, mostly because we discovered that as the year went on, temperature wasn't necessarily the trigger that identified someone as positive COVID. And so that seemed like, and it's not the CDC guidance either anymore. So it seemed like a protocol that we could probably strike it out of guidance. We made clear several times the definition of close contact for the CDC. And so that's defined continually as still 6 feet or more apart. So close contact defined as a requirement. We changed the classroom spacing requirement to 3 in elementary and in middle school and high school. Again, a change in CDC. It had been 6 feet. They reduced it to 3, but still keeping in mind, I know Janelle Wright is here. She's our nurse, has sat on the committee this whole time. Janelle waved at everyone yet. Still making it very clear that when it comes to contact tracing and quarantines, close contact is still defined as 6 feet. So basically what that means is kids can be 3 feet apart, but close contact is still 6 feet for contact tracing. So that was a change. We relaxed the mask mandate for employees somewhat. I think this is a good time to present our vaccination data. We, as you know, held 2 vaccination clinics for both shots of Moderna. Had a really good turnout for that. We did a survey that did not identify anyone, but just I wanted to see what percentage of our staff members were vaccinated fully as of May 1st. And this is additional. I kind of did some number crunching today. So this is something the committee didn't hear. But we had 192 respondents of certified staff that said that they would be fully vaccinated by May 1st, which would have been Saturday. And that reflects out of 325 certified employees, 60% of our staff today, certified staff are fully vaccinated, which for me is a coup, makes me feel a lot better about safe at school with adults. I know Lindsay Sinkville, our second nurse, she couldn't be here tonight, but had pulled the data on what's considered herd immunity, and it's anywhere from 60 to 90% in an organization. Really, that data was nationwide, would be considered it reached, and I feel pretty good about where we're at with that. So,
Excuse me, just one.
Yeah.
So 60% were vaccinated,
yes,
fully vaccinated,
certified staff, yes,
and 100% were given the opportunity.
correct.
So if they didn't do it, they felt like, for whatever reason, they just felt like that they didn't need to do
None
it.
of my business, but
Right.
I did not.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. And so with that said, we felt like it would be a good choice to relax the mask mandate a bit for employees, meaning, and there's a couple of places. Number one, they still have to social distance from students and other adults for sure. But if they're indoor socially distanced, that would be a time they can take their mask off. Or outside, we also relaxed it for large group events, specifically outside, with masks being optional. And then relax some of the large group requirements, specifically taking the cap, the number off of the amount of people. One of the oh my gosh, with prom. One of the activities that we had just a week ago was prom out on the football field, outside. Kids made choices, some wore masks, some didn't, but it seemed to work okay. And CDC does suggest that outdoor transmission of the virus is very, very low. So that was another relaxed thing, something we relaxed. And then visitor requirements. So relax the number of volunteers that could come into the school with pre-approval, of course, which is how it always is. And still requiring visitors to wear masks inside the building when they come to an assembly, or in the elementary case, if they're doing field day or something like that. So made some changes that we thought were very doable. I will say the one part that got us, that probably facilitated the most discussion, was the mask portion for students. We had crafted some language, and I need to go to that page because that was really one area that was discussed most readily, and I think you two would agree. If you look on page 11, if you don't have it in front of you probably, but page 11 of the actual final document, in the second bullet, it said, while in the building, all students will be expected to wear a mask at school, but may remove the mask while eating, during the vigorous indoor physical activities, or during outdoor activities, which has always been the case. And then we had suggested the possibility of, or while social distancing is being practiced. We talked that through for, I would say, a good 15, 20 minutes in our committee. And remember, the committee was made up of 2 teachers, 2 principals, 2 board members, 4 parents, and then some of my staff, my cabinet. And resoundingly, I think the trigger was, because it's the last 18 days of school, protocols are super hard to change once kids become accustomed. I will say that our leadership team is pretty solid on keeping that mandate till the end of the school year, which is, of course, May 26th, so not too much longer. So what's in the final recommendation is representative of what the committee agreed to through consensus. Just so you guys know, it doesn't mean that it can't be amended. That's always allowed in a board meeting, but that's the recommendation of the committee.
And so my question is, the teachers in the classroom, in their social distancing, don't need to wear a mask, correct?
They can stay away from kids, but here's the problem with that.
I'm just asking.
The answer is correct.
I just want to know
Yes.
if that's correct.
That's correct.
Okay, so they can change their protocol because they've been doing it all year, but you're saying the students can't?
I think the idea was our staff has been vaccinated. If they haven't been vaccinated, they
How
still,
do we know some kids haven't been
I
vaccinated?
don't know that. But I do know that it's only available for 16 and up. So I do know that our elementary students have not been.
Okay, so I'm talking about the high school.
again, this is the recommendation of the committee. It's up for a vote at the last item, so it can be amended or disapproved.
Well, I appreciate you guys putting the plan together. Working through it and making it, an item that we can discuss.
Sure,
Thank you very
absolutely.
much.
Absolutely.
And sorry for missing item number 9. We're back to item number 9, our families and communities.
So I will just, so your district dialogue has, I have really, even though I was resistant at first about going online and being kind of raw with our conversations with our public, we've gotten some really good feedback from our district dialogue online, which I am pleased about. People that don't tune in that night can go back and look at the topic and tune in later. So we're getting some incredible views on it. So we'll continue. That's going to be a practice we'll continue. I'm not saying we'll never have dialogue here in person. We could, but consistently we might have 5 to 10 patrons that would show up in person, whereas we've had as many as 2,000 views on a dialogue that's virtual. So that's practice, I think, that shows some public interest and helps us convey messaging out that maybe wouldn't otherwise be put out. I will say we've been pumping enrollment, and we have approximately 1,716 students that have current students that have pre-enrolled, which is a coup for us right now. So again, continue to push that, help us out, pushing that out because we really want to get our pre-registrations done because it helps us plan for Virtual Academy. If you remember last year, at the end of the summer, we were in quite a predicament about who was going to be where. It had a large percentage of our students, I say large, 23% of our students were virtual this year, equating to almost 1,200 at one point in time. I think we landed around 1,100 when it was all said and done, and 300 of those were elementary. And that does a number when you're trying to plan what stuff you need, where you need it, and where the teachers need to be placed. So hopefully we can get those done. Summer school program, we're holding that in July, 3 weeks consecutively, kind of like a normal school day. Parents can drop off, pick up. I love it. We'll feed them, we'll teach them, we'll enrich them. I mean, we're really trying hard to incorporate some activities that are just feel like more like a summer camp. It's interesting how we sometimes forget that activities that don't seem super academic can be academic. And so trying to incorporate a little bit of fun, field trips, a little bit of transportation if parents need it. And I think we have close to 300 students that have already enrolled. I'm so excited about it. So getting back to the business of trying to pick up the pieces from the last crazy year and offer some services to kids that make sense.
What grade level?
Pre-K through grade 8. I am sad to say we only have 3 8th graders. So if we have an 8th grader, you need to close. We had a conversation today. Sean's getting a little nervous about the number of kids. He said, let's close it Friday. I said, let's close it not Friday. How about the end of this? I'm joking. We're doing a great debate about when it's closing, but I'm thinking at the end of the school year, we really do need to kind of figure out how many so that we can plan accordingly for July because that's a lot of children. So initially, our plan was to hold one of the sections at Garfield, the other at Pratt. We're still going to be at Pratt. We're kind of doing the great debate about Northwoods potentially just because the availability of outdoor classroom space in the summer, which is it's an amazing place to do some creative outdoor stuff. So that's probably going to change. And then Clydewood Middle School for our middle school kids. And then of course, the high school still runs summer school, credit recovery, all those things will continue by nature of that's what we do to make sure kids have the credits they need to graduate. So I'm proud. That's that you guys is the highlight of what we should be focusing on right now. And I'm getting so excited about possibilities and having, I could go on forever. I'll stop. But I will say this, having federal dollars over the next, we don't have to spend it until September of 2024. It feels so good to have money to do some pretty creative programming. So that gets me pumped. It gets me excited. I couldn't let you skip that part, Mr. Mullins.
You're excited about it.
Yes.
Any questions for Ms. Durkee about item number 9? We will now move to the consent agenda items. Any item in there that anybody has any questions about?
Bring a couple to your attention. You probably noticed lots of resignations, retirements. Keep in mind that because of the stipend in December, teachers were asked to let us know if they were leaving earlier than what they typically do. So that's by design, more than I'd like to see frankly, but so far we are getting some really good applicants for those positions. So not a bad thing. Where is it at? We have some out-of-state travel. I want to bring one to your attention on item number 21. That looks a little bit different. Jason Anderson is asking to take our vehicle to pick up some equipment in California. Going to be right up front. It's donated by his family. So we're talking livestock, a welder, and then an antique tractor. That gave me a head scratch, but I talked to Randy Evans as well, and he said, listen, we can put it on display when we go set up at the fair. It's kind of a story starter for people who might be interested in FFA programming, which by the way, is one of my very, very favorite things that we do. Our FFA program is second to none. I'll put it up against anyone, anywhere. They do some great work. So I approved it. I'm asking your approval for it. It's kind of different. Doesn't involve students, but it does involve a program. And the only thing it's going to cost us as a district is the gas. So his time, and they're paying for it out of their activity account. Go ahead.
Are there any questions for the board on any item on the consent agenda?
I got a couple more.
Okay.
Okay, so then item 23, the General Assembly at the end of the year, May 26th, we're moving that to Charles Page High School because Miss Teresa Montross Dance Studio has rented that facility that night. So we're moving that. So that's a change.
We moving? I'm sorry.
To Charles Page High School in the auditorium. It's the awards assembly. At the end of the year, we have teachers together and we celebrate retirements and
Yeah.
years of service.
Oh, so that's not it, though.
We're gonna do it, just not at Clyde Boyd.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll forget. I'll show up.
I'll remind you. I don't want you much. Item number 29.
50 seconds.
So,
Kristen Arnold is asking for a new service from what we call Frontline. They manage our personnel, and this is an additional service where they will allow us to do electronic timesheets. So it's not new, but it is new because it's an extended piece of a contract. It's just a service they have available.
Is that basically for Michael's staff?
Yes.
Okay.
The bus drivers, maintenance, studio, all. Yeah. Anybody on a timesheet, Mr. Holmes? Yeah. Item number 30. This is the item we're asking you to approve by committee recommendation, the chronic absenteeism list. And I think that is it.
Any questions from the board about any item on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items. Any further discussion? Call for a vote, please.
Gann.
Aye.
Snuggle.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Wagers. Aye. Mullen.
Aye. Item number 34. Proposed employment recommendation of administrator certified teachers and support personnel.
I make a motion, we approve item 34 as stated.
Second?
Any questions related to item 34 from the board? We have a motion and a second to approve the employment. Call for a vote, please.
Gann.
Aye.
Snuggle.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Wagers. Aye. Mullen.
Aye. Item number 35, proposed executive session to discuss the employment of one transportation coordinator. And I would suggest, or I would offer that we also go into executive session, item number 37. We'll combine those two to convene and evaluate the superintendent.
I don't, can we do that? Because they're two separate things,
They're both employment
They're
related.
employment.
or firing related.
What do you want first?
Unemployment.
And then we'll come back and do 36 and 38 afterwards. So
Jeannie is asking if we can do item number 41 first.
40 and 41.
okay.
Oh, Jeannie.
What about 40?
Wants to
What do you want to watch on TV?
Ah,
I'm happy
We
to,
also
oh, yeah.
40 and 41?
Yes.
and 41, yes, please.
If the board's okay, let's do that. Item
Okay,
number
yeah.
40, acceptance of the bids of, to the lowest responsible bidder on district-wide roof repairs.
So let me take you back a little bit. Last month, we approved a bid package, but we held on a couple of the bids because Ms. Kavach had some questions for the lowest bidder. And so she met to get those, don't let me
We
speak.
had some structural repairs that came to our attention from the roofers that looked at that roof. So we now have a contractor to handle those repairs, and then we can now accept the roof for the FFA barn. And then on the sixth and seventh grade center, we were told by the roofers that looked at sixth and seventh grade center that maybe there was just some minor repairs rather than doing the whole roof. So we allowed them to look at that cost. And it was $137,000 for just minor repairs and $197,000 to do the whole roof. So we're now accepting the whole roof as it was bid before.
So those
And
were,
then I have a contingency.
those were bid before.
Yes.
We just held on that portion. So
Sixth and seventh grade center, or just the sixth grade center, right?
It was sixth and seventh is how it was bid.
Okay.
8th grade's just out.
Then you'll get it.
Okay.
Eighth grade will be a little better, so,
No, get out of here.
okay.
I move to accept the bid for contract lowest responsible bidder on item number 40.
And 41. Are we doing 41 too?
Okay, what's the explanation?
Just the one at a time.
One at a
Okay, we'll just do 40.
Item 40.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Ms. Wagers, a second by Mr. Gunn to approve the, item number 40. Any further discussion? Call for vote, please. Gunn?
Ken,
Aye.
Noggle.
Aye.
Wagner. Aye. Wagers.
Aye.
Mullin.
Aye. Item number 41, talk to us about HVAC.
So this is really, this is the part, I know that sounds a little silly, but this does excite me too. If you live through carbon monoxide and replacing heat exchangers, I know Mike might be a little teeny bit excited about the availability of money to replace some of this equipment. So we targeted, I believe, the worst of the worst.
The older ones.
And the largest of the large, yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's the first wave of HVAC. We'll see more of that as we get this piece done. And so we're asking the board to approve this bid package for these HVAC unit replacements.
And did they get my letter or my recommendation?
You can know, I'm sorry, I can talk about it though.
Well, we bid out standard efficiency and high efficiency to get the PSO rebate. And we have existing 7. A lot of them are the average of 7 SEER, and the standard efficiency is 14. The high efficiency is only 16. So I did the math, and it would take us 16 years to pay back the difference between the 14 and the 16 SEER. So I couldn't recommend that. So we're asking you to approve the standard efficiency.
We participate in the rebate program from PSO.
We have, but I just can't make the numbers work routinely.
Sounds good, but
We just don't get enough of a rebate. Right, we would like to do that, but it costs us money, and if it costs us money, I can't recommend it.
Entertain a motion to approve item 41
Make the motion.
I will second.
by Mr. Gunn, a second by Ms. Wagers. Any questions or further discussion? Call for a vote, please.
Ken,
Aye.
Noggle.
Aye.
Wagner. Aye. Wagers.
Aye.
Mullin.
Aye. Now moving back to item 35 and 37, entertain a motion to move to executive session to discuss the employment of a transportation coordinator and also to evaluate our superintendent.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Gunn, a second by Jackie. Call for vote, please.
Ken,
Aye.
Noggle.
aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Aye.
Mullin.
We will convene to approval here, and you all are welcome to stay, and hopefully we will be back within 3 or 4 hours.
I support her today.
And we discussed the employment of a transportation coordinator, and also we do an annual evaluation of our superintendent, so a very important thing, and again, we have a wonderful superintendent, so do we have to come a motion to move back into open session?
Just say that we're in open.
We were back in open session. I will tell you that while we were in executive session, that there were no votes taken. There was discussion about employment issues. And so we are now on item number 36, the proposed employment of the transportation coordinator. Entertain a motion to approve that employment.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call for a vote, please.
Gunn.
Aye.
Knoggle.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Wagers.
Aye.
Mullins.
Aye. Item number 38, the evaluation of superintendent. Again, we evaluate superintendent 3 times a year. And in the May meeting, we do an annual evaluation, which will be put in her file, and I will compile that information. I will send that out to the board members as well when I get all the information together, so we can all see what we all think of our superintendent. But again, I appreciate Superintendent Durkee. She is a superstar in not just in Sand Springs, but in the state. So we appreciate what you do. So. Item number 39.
Yes, let's talk about that.
38 needs to make a motion to.
Oh, 38.
Need a motion that we evaluated the,
A motion to approve Mike Mullen to compile and file the superintendent evaluation.
we gotta read that.
Somebody want to make a motion for that?
I'll move to approve Mike Mullins to compile and file the superintendent evaluation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second that gave me work to do. Any other questions? Okay. Call for vote, please.
I didn't hear the second.
The second was by,
Rusty.
I'm sorry,
Gunn.
Aye.
Knoggle.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Wagers.
Aye.
Mullins.
aye. Now item number 39. Please, Mr. Durkee, can you walk us through item 39?
So if you remember, we had a resignation that you all approved for Sadie Lassich. She's one of our school psychologists who's done an outstanding job for the district. She had a change in plans, had indicated that her husband was kind of, I don't know how to put that, but was,
He was gonna work out of the country
yeah,
and now he's not.
exploring some employment and is not going to do that now. So she is asking us to rescind her resignation, which I am all about. She's amazing and does a great job for the district as a school psychologist. So it asked the board to approve rescission of her resignation.
I'll entertain a motion as such.
I'll move to approve the rescission of the resignation by the school psychologist.
And I'll second.
We have a motion by Ms. Wagers and a second by Ms. Wagner. Any questions or discussion? You call for vote, please, Ben.
Gunn.
Aye.
Knoggle.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Wagers.
Aye.
Mullins.
Aye. Item 42. Your turn, Greg. You get to walk us through anything in the budget. Changes. You kind of talked about it a little while ago. Anybody have any questions for Greg? We entertain a motion to approve the budget revision for General Fund 11 for the 2021 school year.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
By Mr. Gunn, a second by Mr. Novel. Any questions or discussion? Call for vote, please.
Gunn.
Aye.
Knoggle.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Wagers.
Aye.
Mullins.
Aye. Item 43, the revised Sand Springs Public Schools strategies for startup for the 2021 as recommended by the superintendent. I would entertain a motion to approve the strategies for startup as written and presented in our,
I want to make a motion that we amend the strategies for startup, page 11. In the section while in the building. The second bullet point. To read, all students will be expected to wear a mask at school, but may remove the mask while eating, during vigorous indoor physical activities, during outdoor activities, and while practicing social distancing.
I'll second.
we have a motion and a second to provide an amendment to the revised Sand Spring, it's a mouthful, revised Sand Spring public school strategies for startup. And Mr. Guy, I have to ask a couple of questions on that because there were other instances in there that talk about wearing a mask inside. If it's just on page 11, do we need to take that and take it back to the committee and go through the whole thing and find all the instances that would require?
No, that wouldn't change anything else for students. The other items dealing with masks were employees that have already been addressed. One of the reasons we would want to add this in is because we are allowing employees who have had the opportunity to be vaccinated to not wear their masks if they are socially distanced.
Okay.
And I think we should also extend that to the students who are statistically not able to spread the virus to one another. And so that would be a recommendation from myself. Of course, we could go into, there's a lot of data. We had some people speaking to that earlier, pages and pages, and we could filibuster, we could debate all of those things. But I think ultimately it comes down to our governor took away the emergency declaration as of today. And so there's no need for these guidelines really at all. However, the compromise in my heart, the compromise on my part from someone who does not, I would prefer us to not have the masks from this point on. But this is a compromise to say, I think those who have complied all year long, we could say to them very readily, thank you for complying. And now that we don't have to, we're not going to force you to. And so that would be my recommendation based on those things. And again, that those who have wanted to vaccinate have had the opportunity. And that's why I propose that amendment.
Any further discussion or questions? Let me see if I could reiterate your motion to approve the amended strategy, which allows the children, the students, to not wear masks when they're indoors.
With their socially distance,
As long as
practicing the recommended social distance. Yes, that we've followed CDC guidelines upon to this point.
Which is 3 feet.
3 feet per students.
Which, if we're gonna go by the exact definition of social distance, we're talking 6 feet between students.
Is pretty
By definition.
social distance and then contact is two different things in the CDC's guidelines.
Janelle, would you clarify?
They said in classrooms where it's harder to social distance, you can move the students to 3 feet. But when you're contact tracing, you still go off of the 6 feet.
Right, so the social distancing and the contact tracing are two separate items in the CDC guidance. That's what I'm expressing as well.
You'll be quarantining at 6 feet.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? I call for a vote, please. This is to approve the amended version.
Correct.
Novel,
Aye.
Wagner,
No.
Wagers,
No.
Mullen,
No. I'd recommend, entertain a motion to approve the revised Sand Springs Public School strategies as recommended by the superintendent. I'd ask for a motion, please.
I'll make the motion to approve the revised Sand Springs Public School strategies for startup 2021 as recommended by the superintendent.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Ms. Wagner, a second by Ms. Wagers. Any discussion on that? Call for vote, please.
Gannon,
No,
Novel,
Nope.
Wagner,
Yes.
Wagers,
Yes.
Mullen.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Turkey, for putting that together and working.
I would just add, we'll be continuing committee discussions for the month of May, for a revisit in June or June meeting for summer school, because we're running a summer program. So that will be something we'll gather the committee together again to look at, and definitely before the start of the school year.
Okay. Item number 44, some announcements. We have, just help with on that, Ms. Durfee, we have graduation Saturday night right here. We
Yes.
need to be here at what time, where, when, and
Say, I'm gonna be here around 6. They're gonna, I think, meet in the doobie, so my thought process is we meet in the doobie as well.
we meet to do.
Yes, and I'll have your gowns.
Okay. Any
Mr.
questions from the
Can I
board?
can I just
related
ask
to-
one question?
Excuse me, sir, the meeting's not over with, sir, please.
I'm curious, how many kids you have
I was gonna say, sir,
how many kids you have in this
You're out of
district and
order.
how many you have? in this
Turkey.
district? That's not right.
Well, we be allowed to speak.
Yeah, we have to have a time to
Here we
speak.
go. Hey, guys, we're still in business session, so
We're leaving,
Doing our.
but we're not happy with the decision.
we're at item number, any other announcements that we need to be made aware of, so. Okay.
Yeah.
Item number
Motion that we adjourn.
5 is a
Second.
motion to adjourn.
I make-
By Mr. John and a second by Mr. Dalton. Call for vote, please.
Karen,
Aye.
Noggle,
All right.
Wagner, Wager, Wallen.
Do we have to? Please. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, right.